Welcome to New Era School Notes for Studies.
Imagine this. A small island nation, 1959. It's got, well, basically no natural resources. Poverty is rampant. Deep racial tensions are simmering right under the surface, and honestly, the future looks incredibly uncertain. Now, flash forward just 30 years, same island. But now, it's this gleaming global financial center. It's seen as a model of efficient governance, one of the most prosperous places on Earth. How on earth did that happen? We're talking, of course, about Singapore. And the mind-blowing journey really engineered by its first prime minister, Lee Kuan Yew. His name and that rise, they're completely intertwined.
Exactly. And you really hit the nail on the head there. This wasn't some happy accident.
Yeah.
Not luck, not just geography or timing.
Right.
This was the result of very deliberate policies, often controversial, yes, but driven by this unwavering vision and backed by incredible political will.
Okay.
And at the heart of it all, you find this profoundly disciplined approach to governance, a whole architecture of, rules, clear frameworks, exacting standards, all designed to achieve very specific things.
An architecture of rules. I like that.
Yeah, every decision, every policy, it was meticulously thought out to fit into this bigger picture, this grand design he had.
So that's our mission for this deep dive then. We're going to unpack the sources you've given us. We want to explore Lee Kuan Yew's strategies, especially this relentless focus he had on, strict rules and social order, and maybe uncover what lessons, powerful lessons, perhaps even surprising ones, we can draw from Singapore's truly remarkable journey. Okay, let's unpack this then. We have to start at the beginning, right? Singapore is incredibly vulnerable start. Just how precarious was it back then?
Oh, it was dire.
Yeah.
I mean, really dire. Lee Kuan Yew himself famously described Singapore in 1959, at independence, as a third world country.
Right?
Just picture it. Tiny island, no resources to speak of, just trying to survive.
Yeah.
And then it gets even worse after they're expelled from Malaysia in 1965.
Expelled, yeah.
Suddenly, Singapore is this reluctant nation, a city-state, kind of alone, surrounded by neighbors that could easily have turned hostile. You've got just 1.9 million people, no natural resources at all. So this vulnerability, this existential threat, it wasn't just a challenge, it was the driving force. It explains so much about Lee's pragmatic, often quite authoritarian approach to building the nation. It was about survival, first and foremost. And think about the challenge he faced internally. He had to forge a single, cohesive nation out of what he called a polyglot collection of migrants, people from China, India, Malaysia, other parts of Asia.
All crammed onto one small island.
Exactly. So the systems, the directive, the rules he put in place, they were designed primarily for survival and, crucially, to maintain racial harmony in that incredibly diverse mix. It was about creating a shared identity, a Singaporean identity, where one hadn't really existed before.
It's fascinating, too, how his earlier life might have shaped this. He was at Cambridge, wasn't he, after the war, like 1946 to 49?
Yes, that's right.
That must have shown him Western democracy up close. But it seems like it also showed him maybe the gap between theory and practice. How did that feed into his plan for Singapore?
That Cambridge experience was absolutely pivotal. He saw the ideals, sure, but he also saw, I think, that you couldn't just copy and paste a system.
Right.
Singapore needed its own path. It had to selectively borrow bits and pieces from different systems, whatever worked. His core instinct, driven by that vulnerability we talked about, was survival. And survival meant economic development above everything else.
So pragmatism trumped ideology.
Completely. He saw economic strength as the only way Singapore could remain viable. And to get there, he knew he needed a foundational structure, a clear roadmap, well-defined rules, and the discipline to stick to them. Without that clear framework, that architecture, he believed the nation just wouldn't last.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me and where you see that foresight. One of his most transformative moves, a really strategic set of rules, was making English the main language for education and government. The sources call it a strategic masterstroke. What was so smart about that specific rule?
Oh, it was genius, really. Think about the alternative. You've got Chinese speakers, Malay speakers, Tamil speakers, others. If you pick any one of those local languages as the primary one.
Instant division.
What?
Winners and losers.
Exactly. It creates immediate favoritism, resentment. English, though, was seen as neutral. It didn't belong to any single ethnic group there. So it provided this unifying medium, a way to bridge those cultural divides that already existed.
Okay, makes sense. Neutral ground.
But it wasn't just about neutrality. It was deeply strategic for global competitiveness. Lee brought in this strong bilingualism policy, another clever set of rules, really.
Right. Learn English and your mother tongue.
Precisely. So you get the best of both worlds. You're competitive globally because of English, but you also maintain your cultural heritage through the mother tongue policy. It was about balancing global access with cultural identity. And the economic payoff from this language rule, it was huge and pretty immediate.
Yeah.
English proficiency made Singapore incredibly attractive for multinational companies.
A gateway.
A gateway, exactly. A financial services bridge between East and West. It allowed for rapid technology transfer. It smoothed the way for tourism, international business. Just removed those language barriers. This single strategic rule about language laid the groundwork for so much of their economic success later on. It let Singapore plug into the global economy.
And it wasn't only language where he laid down these clear guidelines, these rules. Education itself was obviously central to his thinking. He saw it as absolutely crucial for building human capital, the foundation for everything else.
Absolutely critical. Singapore's education system was deliberately designed around one core principle, one fundamental rule, meritocracy over privilege.
Meaning?
Meaning you get ahead based on your ability, your hard work, your contribution, not based on who your parents are or your background. And you see this rule applied everywhere in the system.
How so? Give us some examples.
Well, think about the rigorous standardized testing at every level. Academic streaming, too, channeling students onto paths based on their aptitude, their performance, early on. And for the top performers, government scholarships, often for overseas education. They invested heavily in identifying and nurturing talent. But crucially, they also invested in the teachers. High standards, competitive salaries to attract the best people. The whole system was a rulebook designed to find, develop, and then strategically use talent for the nation's benefit. And it wasn't just about university academics either. Lee's government poured resources into technical education, vocational training. They understood, look, not everyone's going to university. And the economy needs skilled technicians, skilled workers across the board.
Adapting to reality.
Totally adaptable. The education rules were designed to be incredibly responsive to what the economy needed. As Singapore shifted from manufacturing to services, then to high-tech, the education system shifted with it, or even slightly ahead of it. That was the brilliance, not just rigor, but this constant alignment with the national economic strategy. The rules ensured the human capital was ready for the next stage.
So, this core belief in strict rules, in adherence to clear principles, what did that mean for society more broadly? Lee clearly believed that rapid development needed strict social discipline, order, and he wasn't afraid to enforce it.
No, he definitely wasn't. Which brings us to what people sometimes call his punishment philosophy, a pretty stark set of rules.
Like caning.
Exactly. Take caning for vandalism, made mandatory in 1966. Lee actually said in Parliament something like, if the offender knows he's going to get 3 of the best, I think he will lose a great deal of enthusiasm. He even talked about his own experience being caned at school.
Really?
Yeah, he said, I bent over a chair, was given 3 of the best. I did not think he lightened his strokes. I have never understood why West educationists are so much against corporal punishment. It just shows how convinced he was that strict enforcement, strict consequences were effective deterrents. That was a core tenet of his rulebook. And this idea of comprehensive social control, these rules, they went way beyond just criminal punishment. Singapore became famous for rules about almost everything.
Like the chewing gum ban.
The chewing gum ban, yeah. Fines for jaywalking, for littering. Even housing policies had rules, strict ethnic integration quotas in public housing. The idea was to force different groups to live together to prevent ethnic enclaves from forming.
Wow, that's quite interventionist.
Oh, deeply. Media controlled too strict licensing, content regulation, and not much space given for political opposition or open criticism. It was all part of this overarching set of rules designed to maintain a very specific kind of social order and national cohesion. Lee understood that for a new nation, sometimes the perception of unwavering order, of rules being strictly followed, could be almost as powerful as the order itself.
And you can't argue with some of the results, can you? Singapore consistently ranks as one of the safest places globally. Incredibly low crime.
World-class safety, yes.
Despite all that diversity, racial harmony seems pretty stable. The city is famously clean, orderly, governance is efficient, corruption is minimal. Wasn't there a survey ranking them first in Asia for low corruption?
That's right, the PERC survey. First among 12 Asian countries. And that's directly linked to the consistent, impartial application of these laws. There was a clear sense that the rules applied to everyone. So yeah, these strong principles, this disciplined approach, it had a very visible, very profound impact on daily life.
Let's maybe share a few anecdotes just to get a better picture of Lee Kuan Yew himself, the man setting these formidable rules. He was called the pragmatic authoritarian, right? That quote about interfering in private life.
Oh yeah, legendary bluntness. He was asked about it and basically said, yes, if I had I not done that, we wouldn't be here today. Just straight up. No apologies.
Startlingly honest.
Completely unapologetic about the methods. Because the goal of Singapore's survival and success justified them in his mind. And his personal standards were apparently just as strict, really walked the talk as an incorruptible leader.
How so?
Lived modestly, refused gifts, insisted on paying for his own meals, even at official functions. There's that story about a developer wanting to name a road after him. And he just said, no roads. I don't want people cursing me every time they get stuck in traffic. Says a lot, doesn't it?
Ew.
About his focus, the kind of culture of public service he wanted, sticking to principles.
He was also clearly a learner, wasn't he? Always adapting, learning Mandarin in his 50s. That's impressive.
Yeah, to engage with China as it opened up.
Yeah.
He famously said, if you want to dance with the bear, you must learn the bear's steps. Pragmatism again. And you also get the sense of him as maybe a fatherly autocrat. Well, apparently he got involved in the nitty-gritty details. Public housing design, tree planting campaigns. A very hands-on approach to implementing the rules and shaping the nation according to his vision. Even things like the branding for Singapore Airlines, the famous Singapore Girl, he apparently oversaw that meticulously to ensure incredibly high standards. Every detail mattered for projecting the image of a disciplined, high-quality Singapore. And it's such a stark contrast when you look at how other countries tackled similar problems, applying their own sets of rules or maybe lacking them. Take Malaysia, for example, right next door.
Yeah, what happened there?
Well, they've struggled with language and education, switching back and forth between Malay and English for key subjects like science and math. That inconsistency probably hasn't helped their global competitiveness. Plus, their system has affirmative action rules favoring ethnic Malays and mandatory Islamic studies for Muslims. That creates a very different social fabric, a different set of governing principles compared to Singapore's strictly merit-based secular approach. Or think about a country like Malawi, mentioned in the sources, an African nation facing huge challenges.
Different context entirely.
Totally different. Limited funding, poor infrastructure, not enough qualified teachers, and that same tension between local languages and English in schools. But unlike Singapore, Malawi just hasn't managed to establish those foundational administrative rules, that consistent enforcement that proves so critical.
So the rules need the right context and enforcement to work.
Exactly. It really highlights how things like existing societal values, political realities, resource constraints, they massively influence whether a strong rule-based approach can even be implemented, let alone succeed. Singapore's ability to enforce its rules so consistently was definitely helped by its unique size, situation, and that strong political will.
So, pulling back, what really stands out to you from this whole incredible story? Especially thinking about other nations, maybe in Africa or elsewhere, facing similar big nation-building challenges today. What are the key lessons about the impact of having this kind of strong framework of rules?
I think several key insights about effective governance really emerge. First, disciplined governance itself. That means rules, laws, applied consistently, impartially, regardless of who you are. Strong anti-corruption measures are part of that. And administrative efficiency government services that actually work for people. It's about building a system of standards that creates predictability, trust.
Okay, disciplined governance. What else?
Second, that long-term vision coupled with investment in human capital. Lee never lost focus on economic development. And central to that was prioritizing education quality, meritocracy, building technical skills, thinking generations ahead.
Right.
Then, fostering racial and ethnic harmony. Actively building a shared national identity, making sure policies are inclusive so no group feels left out or pushed aside by the rules.
Crucial in a diverse place.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And finally, strategic economic positioning. Knowing your strengths or creating them and building on them relentlessly, like Singapore did with its location and the English language rule. These seem like fundamental principles demonstrated through their specific set of rules.
Okay, but we have to bring in the other side too, right?
Yeah.
We connect this to the bigger picture. Singapore's model wasn't without its critics. There were significant controversies, limitations, that authoritarian trade-off we mentioned.
Absolutely, you have to acknowledge that. The price for that rapid development, for that order, included things like restrictions on press freedom, very limited space for political opposition, significant government involvement in people's private lives, and some argue cultural suppression, perhaps, by imposing such a uniform set of rules.
So it's not a model you can just pick up and drop elsewhere.
No, direct copying is probably impossible and maybe undesirable. Singapore's specific context, small size, strategic location, maybe a relatively unified elite early on, made managing those strict rules easier than it would be in a larger, more complex country. And there's that question about sustainability, too. Can such a top-down, rule-bound system really foster the kind of innovation, the creativity that economies increasingly need? How does that kind of enforced unity hold up across generations, especially with social media, global connections amplifying diverse voices?
So the real lesson isn't copy Singapore's rules.
I don't think so. It's more about adapting the underlying principles behind their effective governance. Things like foresight, discipline, investing in people, applying rules fairly. But adapting those principles to fit your own unique context, your own values, and the realities of today's world.
Lee Kuan Yew's legacy, then, it's this powerful, maybe complicated testament. How a tiny nation, with almost nothing to start with, achieved incredible prosperity, stability through strong governance, strategic thinking, and that deep investment in its people, all built on this architecture of clear, effective rules.
Exactly. And just to underline that, the core takeaways aren't necessarily the specific rules like the chewing gum ban or caning. It's the principles embedded within that system, the absolute importance of education and human capital, long-term vision paired with pragmatic flexibility, effective clean administration, and the impartial rule of law, and finding, then ruthlessly exploiting your unique competitive advantages. Those are the transferable ideas, I think.
So it leaves us with a big question, doesn't it? For nations everywhere grappling with development, with progress, where do you draw that line? What's the right balance between needing strong, clear rules to get things done to achieve progress and that fundamental human desire for individual freedom, for diverse ways of living? How can countries learn from Singapore's undeniable successes but build approaches that fit their own cultures, their own values, finding their own path? It's definitely something to think about long after this deep dive.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and follow. We are also on Facebook and TikTok. Just scan the QR. This is Victoria signing out.